What are the best exercises for hip arthritis? Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Candy, and in this video, I'm going to explain 5 exercises that you can use to help relieve hip arthritis pain. Now, I'm sure you can find videos that show a lot more than 5 exercises, but why would you want to do exercises all day when you can get more efficiency and get more bang for your buck out of just a few simple exercises? So I'm going to put together 5 exercises that you can use, and those will fall into 3 different categories. Number 1 is aerobic activity. Number 2 is mobility or flexibility exercises. And the third is strengthening exercises for your hip. Now, before we get started, I probably should explain what we mean by hip arthritis pain in this video. There are a lot of people who have hip pain, and most people describe their hip pain as over the outside of their hip. But that type of hip pain usually has more to do with soft tissues, either your IT band that runs down your leg, or the bursa over the outside of your hip, or the tendons of the gluteal muscles on the side of your hip. And even if you have arthritis on your x-ray, if you're having pain on the outside of your hip, it's more likely that that's being caused by soft tissues rather than actually from the arthritis. Now, in this video, we're going to describe exercises to help people who have groin pain, which is usually where most people feel hip arthritis related pain. And so these exercises are going to help if you do have groin pain from hip arthritis. Now, the first category is aerobic activity. And for that, walking is really the best exercise. And the reason for that is if you think of your cartilage like a sponge that's soaked up some water, your joints release a lubricating fluid called synovial fluid. And as you walk and compress that sponge on the end of the joint, it squeezes out that synovial fluid into the joint space and helps lubricate your joint and help it to move a little bit more smoothly. Now, a lot of people who have arthritis in their hip may have trouble walking for long periods of time. And to truly get the best effect out of your walking, you want to walk for thousands of repetitions. So in order to be able to walk longer, if you have pain when you're walking, you can walk in the water, you can walk on a treadmill, or one really easy thing to do is just to walk using a cane. Now, a lot of people have apprehension or don't want to use a cane because they feel like it makes them look like they're getting older. And there's nothing wrong with using a cane, especially if you're just using it to allow you to walk for longer periods of time. Because by walking longer periods of time, you'll help make your joint and the cartilage healthier so that you can eventually walk longer without needing a cane. Now, the way that you use a cane when you're walking is to use the cane in the opposite side as you're having the pain. So if you're having pain in this hip, you'd use the cane in this hand. And you want to move your leg and the cane at the same time. And so when you do that, you take some of the pressure off of this hip and put it over onto this hand. And that allows your hip muscles not to have to work as hard, especially if they've gotten a little bit weaker. And we'll go over some strengthening exercises for your hip muscles a little bit later in this video. But if your hip muscles have gotten a little weaker and you're kind of tipping over to the side when you're walking, then that creates more compression in your hip joint. So using a cane in the opposite hand of the side where you have the hip arthritis pain can allow you to walk for longer periods of time. And then eventually you can start walking longer and longer periods without needing a cane. So it's not like you're on it forever. It's just going to help you to be able to accomplish the exercises that'll help you get healthier. Now, the other side benefit is if you have hip arthritis and you also have some balance problems, using a cane in your opposite hand also helps make you a little bit more steady so that you don't have risk of falling. So that's the aerobic exercise for hip arthritis. Now, the next classification of exercises are stretching or mobility exercises. And there are lots of different stretches that you can do for your hip. But in general, there are 2 main motions that people with hip arthritis have trouble with. And that's bringing their knee up like this, bringing it up closer to their chest, as well as doing rotation type movements like putting on shoes. A lot of people have trouble putting on shoes. So if you're having trouble with that rotation, say you're having trouble getting your shoes or socks on, a great stretch for that is really just doing the position where you're putting shoes and socks on, crossing one leg over the other and trying to bring that knee up as best you can. If you need to stretch a little bit more, just pushing down like that helps you get a good stretch in the hip muscles, the piriformis or the other hip rotators in the back of the hip. But if you're getting groin pain or your groin's limiting you, or you just don't have the mobility in your hip to get up this high, if you have a step stool or an ottoman or something that you can place in front of you, you can put your foot up on it like that and then just stretch forward this way. So if you're limited in your hip mobility and you can't get your ankle over your opposite knee, then you can start out on a step, and as you get better, as you improve your range of motion, then you can eventually progress to getting that leg up over the opposite knee. And so that will help you to be able to do things like get your shoes on. Also helps a little bit with being able to lift your leg to get out of a car. I've got another video that I can link to with a few more exercises if you are interested in ways to help lift your leg up higher in that direction. Now, another great exercise that you can do for hip arthritis is a hip flexor stretch. And that's good really for two reasons. It helps you with bringing your knee up closer this way, but it also helps you with hip extension, getting your leg behind you, like for example, when you're going to take a step. Now, the nice thing about doing a hip flexor stretch is that it works both legs at the same time. And so if you go into a partial lunge like this, you're stretching the hip flexors of this leg, as well as you're stretching the muscles in the back of your hip. So this leg is coming up towards you, a motion called flexion, and this leg is going behind you, a motion called extension. So you're really working opposite sides of both legs at the same time. Now you can go all the way into a kneeling position and do it this way, or you can stay standing, particularly if you have some trouble or if you have some knee arthritis as well. If kneeling is giving you some pain, then you can do it in a semi-lunge or a standing position. To show how that looks from the opposite side, you stagger your feet this way. You get a stretch in the front of this leg and in the back of this leg. So those are the two flexibility or mobility exercises to help you if you're having hip arthritis pain. Now, the third classification of exercises for hip arthritis is strengthening. And segueing off that last exercise that we just did, lunging is a great exercise to help you if you have some weakness in your hips. It helps you control your side-to-side stability. So if you watch from the front, it helps you control the inwards and outwards motion of your hip, which uses the muscles on the side of your hip. But it also helps using the muscles in the back of your hip. So your bottom muscles, your hip muscles, help you go up and down from the floor. So it's a great glute strengthening exercise as well as a quadricep strengthening exercise. And you may have trouble getting all the way down on the floor initially. So just doing a partial lunge to start is a great way to start out. If you do have some balance problems, I would recommend holding on to something with your hand like this. And as you're able to go farther down, you just go farther down into that lunge until you're able to get all the way down onto the floor. And functionally, that also helps you with activities like getting down on the floor to clean or play with grandchildren, or God forbid you fall, to help you get back up from the floor. Having the strength in your hip helps you to be able to do that. So that's one strengthening exercise for hip arthritis. The next strengthening exercise for hip arthritis is to do with the muscles on the outside of your hip. And I mentioned before when you're walking that if you tip over to the side like that when you're walking, it creates compression inside your hip joint. So by getting the muscles on the outside of your hip stronger and helping to be able to hold your pelvis level as you're taking a step, helps prevent you from getting groin pain when you're walking. And so really just standing on one leg, again, holding on to something if you have some balance problems, and standing on one leg and trying to keep your belt line or your pelvis level with the floor is a great exercise to help strengthen the muscles on the outside of your hip. Now, there are ways you can progress that. If this is super easy for you to do, you can start to make it a little bit stronger by doing little mini squats, but just standing on one leg and balancing for most people with hip arthritis can be somewhat challenging. So wait until you build up the stability and strength in your hip to be able to stand on one leg, and then you can start to add progressions into it. For example, bending your knee as if you're going up or down stairs. So hopefully you found those exercises helpful if you are dealing with some hip arthritis. Now, if you happen to be in the St. Louis area and you need some help for hip arthritis, just contact us at More for Life and we'd be happy to help you out. And if you're watching this video from somewhere else but you found it helpful, give the video a like and subscribe to our channel so you can get notified of our future videos. Thanks for watching and have a great day.